Alrighty, we are back, everybody. Steve here. Yes, the retired hobby tech guy living here in Korea, American expat, doing hobby stuff. And today, what we're going to end up doing is we're talking about resin printing tools. Great resin pump, but the cost is what? Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. If we go back to our screen there, what you can end up seeing is that that's the resin pump right there. And the whole idea of the resin pump is to basically what you're going to end up doing is you have a device that has a small suction pump, and then you have a removable bottle that you can suck in. Hey, zombie hunters here. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Basically, what you end up having is this resin pump that is rechargeable, has a rechargeable battery, so a NiCad battery. Let me get this from the desk real quick. I know I'm not too organized this morning, but here it is. It's like a futuristic laser gun type of thing. And basically, it's just a little rechargeable battery that we have in there, and you've got your little port there. You've got a what is it? The USB-C connector is right there, and then you've got like a toggle switch to go from one side to the other, and that will dictate whether this thing is going to evacuate resin into the bottle or extricate it from the bottle. You can either suck or blow, is what it comes down to. It's got a silicone tip on here, and when you take this bottle out, you've got this little connector on there. So basically, it's supposedly watertight. Now, I had been given this to test it out in review, and it works, but there's some issues with this. And so I kind of want to go over this, and then we'll go over the price of what it is right now. So yeah, this goes back like 7 months or so, maybe longer. I can't remember exactly, but there were some other YouTubers that ended up getting this and actually posting their videos. I was going through it. Had some, as I was testing it, works out great, but I did have some recommendations, and it was for naught. They asked me not to post the video. They didn't even get to see the video that I posted or that I was going to post, which was pretty favorable, except for I did the pros and the cons. And like I said, I do honest videos and honest reviews, do pros and cons. And if things don't live up to the hype, well, and if there's things that bother me about a product, I'm going to let you know. So anyway, it ends up they said hold off on the video, don't post it. So before I got a chance to upload it, I was like, okay, because they said they were going to be doing some work on tooling and other stuff and pricing and whatever, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll honor them. I'll honor that. But with this thing here, basically, it works well. I really wish that on one side or the other, they would have like, extricate and suck or blow, in or out on a little bit of labeling on here. But other than that, it works pretty well. The only problem I saw with this device was in the bottle and the fact that as you suck resin into this, well, trying to clean this out is kind of a bear. Now they talk about you can get IPA and suck the IPA in there and then just kind of shake it around and then blow it out and suck it in, shake it, blow it out. Well, you have to do that a lot of times, and there is still unfortunately there is still resin residue in this. And so if you want to actually really, really clean this out, and depending on the types of resins that you have, or if you use different types of resins, you're going to have to go through and find some way to clean this out. And it's going to take a lot of IPA. It's going to take a lot of sucking and blowing. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Berthus, good morning. Good morning, sir. How you doing? We're talking about this resin pump, and this is kind of an interesting little deal here. one of the recommendations that I had for this resin pump is that, like I said, it works. It sucks and blows, but the problem is with this bottle, you can't remove this tip here, and you can't unscrew this here. So really, if you could unscrew this to be able to clean the bottle out and get a brush in there and do all that stuff, you could minimize the amount of time that you're going to flush IPA in this thing and out of this thing. To get this clean, it's going to take about, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 times. And even then, there's still, I don't know, there's still remnants of resin in there. Really you need to just be able to get a brush in here. And unfortunately, with this piece that is on the back here, they really should have threaded this in with a grommet, a gasket of some type, so that you could take it apart and make it more easy to clean. Other than that, it works good. The other recommendation I said, because what they end up saying is that when you evacuate resin into this bottle, this can be a storage bottle. And they say that this was, at the time, was UV protected. So in other words, you didn't have to worry about UV light curing your resin in this bottle. I'm not sure. I don't have anything that says that it would fail at that. I set it out and stored it, resin in it, and set it on the desk. I didn't notice any additional curing to the resin, so I just have to take them at their word, and from what I see, it seems to work. With that being said, you don't have a cap on this. So when you set this up and you use this as a storage device, if it falls over and the bottle's full, you're going to get some leakage. And so that was a recommendation, that you could have some type of silicone cap that you could put on here, which would, just cover that front end, and you should be good to go. But once again, it just kind of fell on deaf ears for some reason. And again, when they ended up saying, hey, well, don't post the video, I was like, okay. And then they went dark. We didn't see anything from them for a while. So I thought, okay, well, the company started, they tried to do some stuff, and yeah, now I've got resin on my hands. It's really hard to clean that bottle out. And then that also begs the question is, what happens if you get resin inside that goes inside that pumping mechanism? Is that a possibility if that happens? And you can actually see in there, there's a little bit of, you can see, I don't know if you can or not, but inside that center hole, you can actually see some of the wetness from the resin. And so that's kind of like getting resin inside the pump mechanism. Again, it's still working after a number of months, but I have noticed a little less, how would you put this? It's not working as well as when I first got it. It still works, but it's just, I've noticed a little bit of a difference. And I don't know if that's because of the battery. I don't know if this was a pre-production unit or anything like that. They didn't mention anything. They just said, hey, we're going to be selling this and we want you to review it and blah, blah, blah. And then over the course of time, they just said, hey, nix the video. We have stuff to do. But recently, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I saw a Facebook post, Facebook advertising on this, and it's the Swift Builder resin pump. And so I wanted to kind of go over this and do a little bit of background. Ferrithus says, I'm a total noob when it comes to resin printing. Just know it's a lot of steps. That's true. It is a lot of steps. It's not as fun and the immediate gratification of resin printing or FDM printing. There is the mask that I'm doing, the Ripper mask. I'm doing some painting on that, so that's turning out pretty good. So, yeah. But yeah, there are more steps to resin printing. The cool thing about resin printing is you can do miniatures, you can do figures with highly, highly details, and you can get some awesome results. And so there is a place for that. Once you get your resin dialed in, kind of like, you have your filament dialed in for your machine with your profiles and settings, you just set it and forget it, use the same resin, and you're good to go. You print, The extra steps are you have to remove the prints from the build area, and then you have to wash them with IPA or some other resin taking off substance. Usually it's IPA, and that's kind of smelly. And then you have to let it dry, and then you have to cure it with a UV light. And it's a little bit of a process, but the results are incredible, especially for figures and prints and things like that. Matter of fact, let me show you some of this stuff with some awesome details. And here we go. So here's what we can end up doing with resin printing. So with resin printing, you can get some serious details, and this is a larger print, but the amount of details that you can get on this are insane, which is incredible. So, and this allows you to get details that are really incredible. So, here's another one that we end up seeing. And again, the details on this are just incredible. When you can get chains and you can get, skull action and stuff like that, it's just amazing on the quality of prints that you can get in the details. And I've got some other stuff that's even better. But with that, again, you can just get some pretty incredible details. So if you have something that's highly detailed, as some of the stuff that I have, you wouldn't be able to get that on an FDM printer at the small size or scale it larger. It's just not possible on an FDM printer at this time. Ferrithus says, I guess that's the price of injected molded quality. Injection molding, with sprues and like Warhammer and tabletop figures, you can get some really good results there. But resin printing came in at a point where people got disgusted with the high price of injection molded miniatures like Games Workshop and started doing their own. Perfect application for model making. It is. And miniatures, it is outstanding. Ferrithus says, away from keyboard for a minute, my telescope needs a quick alignment tweak. Okay, Mr. Rocket Scientist, we got to let him do his thing. That'll give you time to like and subscribe to the channel. And for me to drink a little bit of my vanilla hazelnut latte that we're rocking today. Pretty good. But anyway, back to the Swift Builder resin pump. Like I said, this thing ends up working really well. And then they asked me not to post the video because they're doing some stuff and they had to work on some stuff is what they said. And so I was like, okay, I hadn't posted it yet. And, to be fair, okay, yeah. If they were going to make changes and do this and that or whatever, why post that if they're going to make improvements? And so I was totally fine with that until I saw their advertisement on Facebook. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take a look at this, and boom, there it is, UFM Design Store. And there it is. There's the resin pump. They did a little bit of a change there, as you can see on this version. The silicone part that goes over the end of the tube is a little bit different, but the housing and everything else looks the same. It is exactly the same. And again, it works. But there's a problem. And the problem is the price. Holy crow. Now, to give you a little bit of context, what we're going to end up doing, let's see. Zombie Hunter says, did you see the questions I asked before? Let me check. Here it is. This is the question. Sorry about that. It says, I heard if you don't cure the prints properly in the middle, they may explode. Not really. If, say, for example, if I have a miniature and it's printed solid let's just get back to here. And let me get an example, if I can find a good example. No, not that would be a good example. Okay, here's one that we can use. So for example, here is, now this is kind of a kit bashed little thing, but what I ended up doing, this is a Warhammer, and again, the details on this are incredible. Now this part here was supposed to go on the staff. I took it off and put it on, and then like did a little addition to the arm there, but you can see the details on this are incredible. So if this is printed solid, you don't have to worry about that, because with each layer of the resin printing, it'll go down. Each layer, like 50 microns, is cured with UV light, and then the build plate goes up. It's actually printed upside down, and then it'll do one layer and then the next layer, and it'll go up until you get all the layers. If it's solid, you don't need to worry about that. When you hollow out an object, that's where it might come into play. Because if you have hollow areas within the model that are isolated, you'll get liquid resin trapped in there, and then that's where you can get the exploding miniatures or the exploding figures, because the resin that is trapped within that cavity hasn't been allowed to come out, and so over time that can actually cause breaks in the model and the resin to leak out. So yeah, that is an issue. But with that, what you can end up doing, like we see on the bottom, is if you hollow out your miniature or your figure or your model, you have to leave drain holes for that liquid resin to not get caught in those areas. And then they also have tools and slicers, resin slicers, where you can block off areas. Like this arm probably wouldn't be worth hollowing out. You're not going to save a significant amount of resin, so you can just make that whole arm solid, and then maybe just, as I did on this one, I hollowed out just the main body and the legs. So it saved a little bit of resin, and it's a little bit lighter. Again, you're probably saving a few pennies on a figure like this. So again, with something like this, and you can print it, and I think this came in like 2 pieces. So, again, it depends on placement. But again, the details on this are incredible. So really, I haven't experienced any exploding miniatures or models. There have been times where I didn't cure the miniature long enough afterwards, and so some of the earlier stuff that I had developed cracks. But yeah, it's the quality and the detail that you can get is unmatched from FDM printing. If FDM printing ever gets to the level where they can do this, I will throw away all my resin printing gear. So anyway, we've got that. And again, the pile of shame of things that I need to print. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. And Ferris says, yeah, beautiful, perfect application for models. Let me see if I can catch up. Ferris says, all right, I'm back. We finally got a bunch of clear nights in a row this week, so he's setting up his telescope. And Zombie Hunter, nice. How much is, whoa, what's going on? Okay, there we go. How much is a figure like this in dollars? 100 grams of PLA are about $1 to $2, for example. Yeah, it depends on the size of the figures, but you can do a lot. And so maybe with a 32 millimeter figure, you're looking at like pennies on the dollar. You're looking at, I've done miniatures depending on how big they were, but 32 millimeter high miniatures, I think if I remember, 15 cents up to 20, 25 cents maybe. So let's see. The other question, let me see. Let me run through that. Exploding prints. Here's the question. Are you going to be able to use the resin in the bottle, or is it just sucking up the waste resin? Oh, okay. that makes sense. That's a good question. No, this, in other words, you could or extract the resin from your vat into this bottle so you can clean, and you can look for, maybe you can clean it up, you could put more resin in, but you could use this as a storage device, and then you could put the resin back into the vat, so you could do that as well. But yeah, the whole idea is to vacuum this out for a longer term storage, and you could clean up your vat, like if you go on vacation or whatever, you could store the resin in the bottle. Usually what people end up doing now is taking the vat, and then they'll pour the vat into the bottle, and you got a little funnel in there that you get from dollar store, Home Depot, or whatever like that. And if you do it that way, which is it's kind of a pain in the butt. Resin printing is pretty inexpensive when you get into it. It's amazing. So, you look at. Let me show you the like if we do eSun PLA resin. eSun resin, or we'll take a look at this. And you're looking anywhere from like we'll take a look at this here. So you have like Sunlu resin, about $13 a bottle. Elegoo, $20, $16. It depends on the type of resin that you get. $15, $16, stuff like that. So it's pretty good. It's not bad for 1,000 milliliters. And then you can print a ton of stuff. You can print a lot of miniatures when you're taking a look at resin printing. So if you're doing tabletop gaming, that's why a lot of people who do tabletop gaming that don't like the high prices of Games Workshop, they will find models online and they will print their own, but then there's a lot of other tabletop games like One Page Rules that let you use whatever figures you want. They don't really care. And then, of course, there's a ton of makers and content and, people that make figures, and they do entire armies and space and sci-fi and everything you could think of. You can do that with resin printing. So it's pretty wild. It is a little bit of a process to do, but the results and the quality and the details that you get is really worth the effort. So, and I've got a bunch of stuff that I've printed out, and a number of paintings that I've done, like the Orc, the Hulk, the Cave Troll, Dragons, Warhammer, a bunch of those guys, some futuristic stuff. I did the Mandalorian, was a resin print as well. And matter of fact, let me show that off, because that is one of my favorites. And so here is the Mandalorian that I ended up doing. And this was printed out, this was resin printed. And then I painted this guy up, and it turned out really, really well. So, yeah, resin printing, you can do some really cool stuff. And FDM printing, I mean, we're almost there till we can get almost the good quality as resin printing, but not yet. So, here is the most recent. That is the most recent Warhammer one that I did. So that guy's rocking and rolling. This was resin printed. This is free off of the Cults 3D page. So it's got some pretty good details on there. And again, resin printing, I think, yeah, this is the heavy one. So I just did, this is entirely solid, because I didn't want to mess with anything. And I was lazy to hollow it out, even though it's just a few button clicks. But that turned out really well. So, but getting back to the ray gun resin pump thing from this advertisement that we saw, it ends up it was very interesting when it comes to the price. Ferrithus says, I wonder how the 0.2 nozzles stack up against these models, how far away from that quality. 0.2, there's a lot of people that are printing out miniatures like that were usually resin printed figures, doing them on FDM, on 3D printers with filament, and some of the results are they're getting there. They are getting there, especially with that smaller nozzle size. Really, really interesting. I haven't dived into that at all, because I'm kind of like, if I want a lot of detail, I'm just going to do resin. But the FDM printers are getting pretty darn close, especially with the smaller nozzle size. So you can search the YouTube and check all that out, and you can see they're getting some pretty good results. So anyway, with that being said, I think it's only a matter of time until it will get even better with FDM printing, and then eventually resin printing will be the way of the dodo. Either that or the SLS or whatever, where you don't even need supports, will come into play, and that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, when you get into resin printing, the thing you're definitely going to have to deal with is resin cleanup of the vat. If you have failed prints, you need to take that resin out of the vat, make sure that there's no parts stuck to your FEP or the bottom of the vat, and because if you do, that can affect your next print, because you have something on there and the build plate has to go down onto that. And if you have a chunk or a piece of an old print that failed and it's not going to get there, you can actually tear the film on your vat, and that can leak, and it's just horrible. So having to clean your vat, this thing really comes into play, and it's a great idea. But the problem is when we take a look at this here, where is it? This right here, the Swift Builder. And it's like, oh, okay, that looks good. That looks good. It is. It works well. But way back in the day, like 7 months ago on Greedy 3D, he actually has the exact same one, and he was able to post his video. Let's see. Ferris says, I wonder how resin printing holds up for practical prints. I've seen tons of model stuff and mold making, but that's about it. There is some extremely tough resin. You have like ABS-like resin. You have super tough resin. You have resins that are highly bendable, kind of like inflexible, kind of like a TPU type of thing. You have clear resins. You have resins that are water soluble. Those are generally a little bit more brittle, so they'll break. A lot of my first beginning models were in water washable resin because I didn't want to deal with IPA. But later I got into cleaning with IPA and regular resins because they offered more strength and flexibility than the water washable resin. So, but yeah, they've got some pretty tough resins. Matter of fact, the implants that I have in my mouth are made from dental resin, and that is extremely hard and so kind of expensive. But yeah, my implants are 3D printed. They're resin printed teeth. It's amazing. I actually saw my teeth being printed in the dental office in the lab that they have, and it was just incredible. They do 3D mapping and imaging. They get it down. It's like super, super accurate, incredible detail. And of course, along with that, you're going to need strength, because I'm going to be chomping on steaks and bones and a bunch of other stuff. So, but yeah, you can find for practical prints, there's a lot of resin out there that you can do practical prints that are hardened, flexible, whatever it is, a combination of all those things. And it's pretty impressive. So anyway, here is Greedy 3D and what he ended up doing on his, this was 7 months ago, and he did this, and we're getting to the point of the cost. What would you think the cost of this resin pump? Go ahead, put it down in the comments section. Tell me what you would pay for this and two bottles. Just put that in there, and we'll address. Zombie Hunter says, "Hey, that's cool." Faritha says, I need to make that bigger. Okay. For my job, I've looked into this because you can print ceramics with these, which would be amazing for ultra high vacuum applications. Ceramics are hard to machine. And lots of dental stuff came up. Yeah. So, yeah, you could definitely get some high end and high tensile strength resin. Again, people have done tests on it, on what's the strongest, which has the most tensile strength, the snapping, and how many pounds of force or whatever. But as far as the price, Therapist says $30. Okay. Zombie Hunter ends up saying $69. Okay. Well, here we're going to take a look at this video and we're going to see what Greedy 3D has to say. And this was 7 months ago. Excuse me. So let's take a listen.
Just take the tank out and empty it. I absolutely get that and I understand that completely. I think they've outpriced themselves out of the market at $89 anyway. Nobody, I don't think, is going to spend $89 on a pump when you can literally just take the vat out for free and pour it out. So their price structure may need to change a little bit. Obviously, they've got to make it fit for purpose, which they are going to do. So at this stage, I was really interested to try it, but of course, I cannot recommend this to it.
Yeah. So basically, he was able to post his video, and the price back then was $89, which I totally agree. They priced themselves out of the market. I was thinking around $40, and but the thing that was, why am I bringing this up? Why am I bringing up a video from 7 months ago about, what is the price now? Zombie Hunter says, let me guess, over $120. Zombie Hunter's 89. Yeah, that's what it was 7 months ago. Let's take a look, and we'll see. You'll get a kick out of this. So we go to the UFM Design website, and they've got some other products on there as well. But we're concerned about the Swift Builder Mark II resin pump, and looks like they did a little bit of improvement on the bottle. As far as I know, I asked some questions about this. You still can't take the bottle apart to fully clean the bottle. You just have to suck and blow IPA into isopropyl alcohol in and out of the bottle to clean it, which I don't think is, you really need a removable back end. So if we go to the order now, and you've got some options. So you got a kit that has multiple bottles, but the one kit is $138. That's the exact same kit I got, except I got a different colored bottle. But everything else except for that top, $138. Holy crow. There's another one with a 3-pack. 3 bottles are $45 in and of themselves. And I'm like, nah, I'm not feeling that. And then over here you can get, 5 bottles. And it looks like there's some type of something inside the bottles there. And I'm not sure what that is. Because on these here, you don't get that. But on these here, it's like, I'm not sure what that stuff is. But, yeah. Did I say over 120? Yeah, $138 for this. And 2 bottles. 1 other bottle on top of this. $138. I'm sorry. There's no way. You $89, you priced yourself out of the market. And I just don't get it. I really just don't get it. Faritha says they have to cover the import tariffs from China now that consumer definitely is not paying. Pinky promise. Pinky promise. I totally agree. But I don't know if that's really the case, because 7 months ago we didn't have tariffs, and Greedy 3D showed that they were selling it for $89. Initially, I was told that it was going to be like $40 or somewhere around that range, which was like, okay, yeah, I could. Seemed a little bit expensive. I was kind of more on the $30, $35, $40. Honestly, if they put a cap on the bottles, so if the bottles fall over, they don't spill. I'm just saying that's kind of a thing they should probably include. And for $138, I better be able to take apart the bottles. I better have a cap on there, and I better have some labeling on here that says in and out, at least, because I just don't see 130 for $138. Seriously, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I can buy another resin printer, an older printer, but I can buy an entire resin printer. Hell, with $138, I could probably buy an FDM printer. It would be an old one, which is, yeah, let's do a 3D printer. Let's go on Amazon and check for, can we buy, let's put resin printer. And we got, resin printer, Anycubic Mono 4 for $160, so we're pretty darn close. Which is absolutely insane. But here's the thing. Anycubic is from China. And so if the whole thing about the tariffs, everybody's raising their prices because of tariffs, there's a lot of companies that are not charging that much. There's $159. That's pretty inexpensive. Let's see. There's another one, $119 for this resin printer. Let's see, $139 for a Corality Hallett R6. Those prices haven't gone up. Matter of fact, if you look at the prices of things, actually some prices have gone down in midst of the tariffs because I guess a lot of Chinese companies are like, instead of having no sales whatsoever, they're selling them at a discount, they're minimizing the profits, and they're kind of eating some of that. But we see that with 3D printers as well. 184. So again, let's look at 3D printer. What can we get for a 3D printer? Now let's go from low to high. And 379 FlashForge. FlashForge AD5X has been doing a lot of videos. There's a printer table. No, I don't know. We might be able to get one 3D printer. There's $87. That looks a little rough. But I mean, you could get a 3D printer for, $138. Hell, for resin printing, which you could end up doing, since we're talking about resin, for $138, you could probably get about 10 bottles of resin, and you could print an entire army of tabletop figures. So I just don't see how this goes. So $138 is kind of insane. But when I think what they're doing, and here's something, Ferrithus says they have to cover the import tariffs now that the consumer definitely is not paying. Pinky promise. It's a 65% increase in price now. Tariffs average 57, so yeah, that does track. But then we also see other companies and their printers have lowered their prices, like Creality has lowered prices on some of theirs. So I don't know. It does track, but in some other things, like 3D printing companies have lowered their prices on some of their products. So you'd think with the tariffs they would raise the prices, but they've lowered them. So I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of there's so much profit built into these printers, the 3D printers to begin with, that they can lower the price and still make money in spite of the tariffs. That could be a thing as well. Zombie Hunter says, what's the difference between 2K and say an 8K? And is it worth the price? It's the resolution, but if you're printing at 50 microns, which is the normal resolution for resin printing, it's kind of the go-to standard, the normal default of which it's set, which is all of this stuff is set at 50 microns, which is like the width of a human hair or something like that, less than a human hair. It's pretty damn small and detailed. The difference between a 2K and an 8K, you could get a 2K Would it be noticeable in a tabletop figure if you did an 8K and a 2K? Probably not. But the technology between machines that have 2K versus 8K or 16 or whatever K they're up to now, it's even more. Um, and you have more technology packed into the newer machines that get that higher resolution. I would go with a higher resolution machine, even if you have to pay a little bit more. But when you're looking at machines, like I have the I have the Saturn III Ultra, and let's see what the price is on that, because that comes up pretty good. So here's the Saturn III Ultra, and that is $323. Now this is shipped to Korea. I would have an import tax charge of $87, but if it was shipped to the United States, you're going to get free shipping, and you're not going to have to worry about that. Let me change and see if I put this address, a US address. Yeah. So let's go back to this. And so still $323. As a matter of fact, when we look on here, we can see that it has dropped 20%. Used to be $405, and now it's $323. And the same thing, you got the Saturn III has dropped in price from $349 to $279 on that there. Just crazy. The Saturn IV Ultra 4K, $450. That used to be $593. Saturn 4K 16 Ultra, it's $519. So really the difference between a 2K, 8K, 12K or whatever, I would probably stick with a 12K or something like that. But the Saturn III Ultra, what does that come out to? 12K, monochrome, Wi-Fi transfer, ACF release liner. This thing has done well. And again, you saw the details on the models that I printed, and it works well. There's some other companies have more bells and whistles, but $323. Good Lord. $24. About $325. That's incredible. That is great. So, for a few $100s, you can get into resin printing. Of course, you'll probably need a wash and cure station, which is also like this here. This is what I ended up getting, is the Elegoo Mercury XS wash and cure station. So you have your IPA in there, and it swirls around, cleans your print, and then you put it into the UV light thing that cures it, and boom, there it is. So Ferrithus says, it's time to cook dinner. And have a great day. Definitely learned something today. Maybe my next tool will be a resin printer. Yeah, it is. It's a fun thing. Another fun hobby. But anyway, Ferrithus, have a good meal. We enjoyed you coming by and stopping by. Maybe I should do my streams a little bit earlier. But Zombie says, see ya, and we'll see you on the next time. Ferrithus, always a good guy. But you can get into, so $180 for a wash and cure station, $325 for a resin printer. Boom, that is that's very doable. And in light of that, when you look at this thing being $138 for a pump and 2 bottles that doesn't even have a cap on it, I'm not buying that. It's just, I am not buying that at all. But it also seems that this UFM design company that does the Swift Builder resin pump has some other items for sale. And let's see. Zombie says, you missed my question again. Oh, no. Let me go back. So the resin printer 2 to 8K. It all comes down to resolution, and it's really hard to see. I've seen some really big resin printers that have really big beds now too. Okay, is that what other question did you ask? Let me know. I'm sorry. Please retype your question, because I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff. The 2 and 8K. That's the only thing I've seen. Resin printers with big beds. Then we said bye to Ferrithus. Let me back up some more. 120, 69, 69. Cool. I don't see any other question. See the question I asked before. I heard you don't have secure prints properly. They might explode. We answered that. You can suck and blow with the bottle. Okay, here it is. Yeah. What's the bigger bed size you've seen? Honestly, I just deal with my Saturn 3 Ultra. There are some machines out there that have some really large plates, but unless you're, I don't know if those would be worth getting unless you're doing a side gig and you're printing out a bunch of stuff for other people. But nothing comes to the top of my head right now. But there are some larger areas. Mine comes out to about like that big. So you can get a decent amount of miniatures on there, models. Of course, you can slice them as you do in FDM printing. So if the model's too big, you can slice it up into different pieces. A lot of resin prints will come in different pieces, and they should also have the model itself all in one piece, and then you'll have pre-supported files so that you don't need to add any supports. The maker adds those in, and then you'll have unsupported files so that if you want to put that into your slicing program, then you can add your own supports. So some of the older models where they did their own supports and they had pre-supported models, some of those were really rough back in the day, a number of years ago. But yeah, it's gotten a lot better. And of course, slicers have gotten better as well as far as automatic supports and things like that. Zombie says, I've seen really big beds just as big as FDM printers. Yeah, there's a couple out there that the bed size is just huge. And it's just like, holy crow, that's amazingly huge. But the price on those is a little bit more out of my budget range. And I think when I bought my Saturn 3 Ultra, it was around $700, $600, something like that. I can't remember. It's definitely a lot less now than what it was. And I'm still rocking it, still doing some great figures on there. I printed some stuff out for my daughter recently, and she loved it. So, but yeah, I guess it kind of depends on what you're going to use it for. If you're going to do larger models, a larger bus or figures and things like that, then a larger bed or build area would be good if you're going to do that on a consistent basis. But if you're just kind of like me, do some stuff, paint it, do some stuff, not side gig stuff or whatever, just a normal size bed would be good enough in my opinion. So, but you got lots to choose from. And you can go as an inexpensive or as expensive as you want. So, Zombie says, what's the print time compared if you did them on FDM printers? It's going to be, that's a good question. That is a really good question. And matter of fact, how about we can pull up Lychee Slicer, and we'll do a test on this, and we can see. So let's see if we can pop this up. We're going to open up Lychee Slicer, which is the slicing program that I use for resin printing, and we'll get an estimate on that. So right through cover. No, we don't want to recover. And we will open up. Let me get a file on here. I haven't printed anything in a while. STLs, K2, single multiple sets. Creality desktop. Those are saved scenes. Downloads. Dry brush palette. Let's see. Let me see. No, that's not what I want. I gotta, man, I don't even remember where I put this stuff on my computer. Dark elves. That's what I can end up doing. I'll search for dark elves because I ended up doing some dark elves by Redmaker. And pre-supported body. Those are all in parts. They don't have the whole. Dang it. I know I'm slowing this down. It's like, I did that. Mind books, panic at more, towers, cultist, demons, bodies, hands, no, demons, Croused, pre-supported. Okay, I think I got something here. So let's go back. Pre-supported, and we'll do something like this. And we'll pop this into Lychee Slicer. And so there is the model, and we're going to move this, select this model, and we'll move it onto the plate. And some structural errors, it'll automatically fix that. And there is kind of the little figure that we have there. So it already has the supports and everything. I printed this out for my daughter. But when we go down here to the bottom left, we can see some information as far as, y'all can see that? No, that picture's in the way. There we go. We'll just get rid of that. So we can see that it's using eSun PLA Resin Pro, 50 microns, and it will take 3 hours and 24 minutes. Let's do an estimate on how much that will cost. This figure here will be 99 cents. So 99 cents, and we're looking at 3 hours and 6 minutes. So now what we're going to end up doing is we will go to Creality Print, and we'll do the same thing, and we'll take a look, and let's see if we can, oh, a new version popped up. No, I'm not going to do that right now. And let's see if we can bring this in here. And again, this is a 49 millimeters. So it's a little bit bigger than a 32 millimeter. But let's say if we print that and it's set at 0.08, which is the smallest layer height. Layer heights may cause, just 0.32. I know I can do 1/6. And then if we slice this plate up, we'll take a look and we'll see how long this would print. But honestly, you would probably want to go through with a 0.2 nozzle, and this is using a 0.4. But as we can see on this left-hand side, it'd take 1 hour and 5 minutes to print that out at a cost of about 19 cents. So, yeah, you're gonna get some differing, 3 hours compared to 1 hour and 5 minutes, 19 cents versus 99 cents. But you're gonna have to remove, all of the. Well, wait a second, that's not going to be true. I almost caught myself lying. We have all these supports, but this is a pre-supported file. So let's go back. We'll take that off, the supports, because it already has supports. And now it's going to take, it gets even better. 42 minutes and 57 seconds. The filament cost is going to be 9 cents. So the quality of that, will it be the same as, FDM printing or as resin printing, which is going to take 3 hours and that's going to be 9 cents. Yeah, 9 cents for the resin printing, which isn't too bad. And then this one is going to be 9 cents. The details are going to be a lot better on the resin printer for sure. And taking off of the supports of doing a resin or a small figure like this on an FDM printer, you're going to have some pock marks, and people are still working on this. There's a lot of people that are doing some great work and testing out and printing out miniatures on FDM printers. Of course, they're using the 0.2 nozzle, something that I haven't even gotten into. So I will discard that. We're going to close all this stuff up. So yeah, it's pretty amazing on what you could end up doing. So the print times with a resin printer, we would get basically 42 minutes, 43 minutes. On the resin printer, it would take like 3 hours and some change. So yeah, but then the details wouldn't be as great. Hack is back. Good morning from Tokyo. Hope the Chuseok frenzy isn't affecting you. No, Chuseok actually starts tomorrow, and it's going to go for about 9 or 10 days. So the craziness is going to be tomorrow because everybody's going to be on the road, but we don't have to go anywhere because our family is local. So yeah, we're safe from all that. So, but thank you for that. Zombie Hunter says you should print out both as a comparison. Yeah, I've been thinking about doing that amongst all of the other things that I do. You know, the mask, which, you know, now I'm on this Ripper mask thing going on, and I've got the other Ripper mask that I'm looking at doing, and then I'm still working. Well, I'm not working because I'm doing this other stuff on like that Doom Eternal Slayer one. So, but yeah, hack, yay, hack. And Zombie Hunter says, "What if you tried a silk filament?" I don't know. I haven't I shouldn't say I haven't printed miniatures on the K2 Plus. I've printed miniatures, but I've scaled them up so they're big. So I haven't really done that. Hack ends up saying, yeah, comparison would be great. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea, because let me show you what I have printed out for this. Was a 32 millimeter figure, and this is printed out on the K2 Plus. So I can't remember the percentage of which I blew this thing up, but the details on it came out pretty nice. And this is 0.2 millimeter, I think, or maybe 0.16. No, this is 0.16. So, but you can see the details came out pretty good for FDM printing. But again, this is a larger print. So I would definitely have to go down to a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. So, and again, more things that I need to print. And really, I moved away from the smaller figures because they're a pain in the butt to paint. So I was like, I'm doing super small, 32 millimeter, and I'm hunched over with this tiny brush, and I'm like hands shaking and and it's like, man, this is almost frustrating. I did a number of Warhammer figures and stuff, and I'm like, then I saw people had scaled their figures bigger, and it's a lot easier to paint bigger things. And then I like the bigger things. Yeah. So anyway, it ends up, painting the bigger things and using the same painting techniques. Of course, you got to use a lot more paint. I just seem to enjoy that more. So, yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. We kind of, Zombie Hunter's like, yeah, I like big butts and I cannot lie. That was kind of the reference I was going for. But, yeah, that's it. I like them big. Anyway, the bigger prints are easier to paint, and then of course that kind of morphed into doing larger and larger things and printing helmets and so on and so forth, and eventually cosplay. Why do you think I print life-size things? Because I can't see well anymore. Aha! The wise man has spoken. The wise man has spoken. So I'm in good company. Hack says, I think they were doing it small for cost reasons and ease of storage. Yeah. And tabletop gaming. I mean, if you're doing tabletop gaming, the 32 millimeter, kind of like the old Army, green Army men that you used to get back in the day, at least when I was a kid, they were, about that size, maybe 40 millimeters or whatever. But yeah, definitely the cost is a deal, and injection molding and all of that stuff. Could you imagine having like those guys there and building an army and playing a tabletop game with that size? That would be pretty wild. So, but it would be big. But yeah, we want things. We like the ease of storage. Got a lot of miniatures that are on display up here that, yeah, the 32 millimeter is good for that. Totally agree. So yeah, there's so much stuff that I would like and want to do, and I just need to drive through and try to finish things. I have my squirrel moments, but definitely one of these days I'll probably throw in a 0.2 millimeter nozzle, but I need to get a 0.2 millimeter nozzle because I have the Micro Swiss hot end on my K2 Plus, and I don't think I have 0.2. Micro Swiss hot end for Creality K2 Plus, and if they have a 0.2, let's take a look at this. And the flow is a lot better on this as well. High flow CMT2 nozzle, what's in the box is CMT2 0.4 millimeter nozzle. So I've got a couple of those. So the CM2 nozzle, they have a 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and a 0.1. So the smallest they have is 0.8. So if I went back to actually do that test at a 0.2, I'd have to take that hot end out, which isn't a big deal. But I would have to go back to the original stock Creality and put that in. Hack says, have you ever considered going to a 3D printing or Warhammer convention to live stream it or record a video? I'm sure there would be an exciting one in Asia during the year. That's kind of the interesting thing here in Korea. I haven't really found that. I've been looking for 3D printing conventions. They're not like they are in the United States or other places of the world where they have a convention and you go and show up and see a bunch of cool stuff. Vendors. Here in Korea, I haven't found that yet. Doesn't mean they don't have them, but I haven't found them yet. And, then there's the possibility of going to Japan. That's kind of like a short trip. It would have to be a pretty big event for me to go and fly to Japan, spend the night, and go get some video. I would love to do it. But if they do have something in Korea, and I would like to do like a Comic-Con, or something like that. Hack says maybe more in China or Hong Kong. Yeah, that's close by as well. I mean, that's entirely doable. I mean, Vietnam is only 4 hours away, so China. How far is China from China? Let's see. How far is Hong Kong from Korea? Flight time is about 3 hours, 40 minutes. 3-4 hours. That's not bad. That's doable. If there was a really, really big show, I would like to do that. I did miss Comic-Con. They have like a Comic-Con here in Korea, and that was in September, the time of my anniversary where we were in Vietnam. So, yeah, we missed it. But next year, I'm going to try to make one of the cons here in Korea and get some video stuff. I heard that Trump-China reference. Yes, I kind of figured you'd get that. I can't do, China, they're a great country, but we got to put tariffs on them. The other day I was talking to my wife and saying that, yeah, we got to put more tariffs. Um, but yeah, getting off track a little bit, I thought the tariff issue was going to be big. When it came to 3D printing, resin printing, kind of the hobby world type of stuff. And what I actually noticed is there's a lot of prices that have gone down when you thought they should have been going up. And of course, then you also have new machines, new models coming out every year. And so, yeah, you're going to get that price drop on older models. But with the tariffs, you would have thought the prices would have stayed the same or gone up, but they've still gone down, thankfully, for 3D printing and resin printing stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But then here in Korea, if I want like a larger printer or things like that, I'm going to have to pay an import tax. Anything over $150, I'm going to have to get an import tax from China to Korea. And there's going to be a little bit of an additional fund to that. So wherever you all are at, you're probably paying less than I am. So be thankful for that. But yeah, getting back to the cons and things like that, I would like to do cosplay. I would like to go to a con and do cosplay. That's on my bucket list. Old people, it's like, oh, I want to, travel to the Grand Canyon and see the Grand Canyon, and I want to go, I want to go to Las Vegas and play the nickel slots, and that's not my bucket list. My bucket list is cosplay. Do a big awesome cosplay like the Doomslayer Eternal cosplay suit. I want to do that, or hell, the Ripper mask is coming out awesome. So maybe I'll kind of dip my toe into that, and because that's not as intense as a full size suit of armor. But eventually I will do that. But I would love to go to a con and see some of that stuff in the cosplay. And yeah, I'm 59, so hell, why not? Who cares? But yeah, that's something I've been thinking about though. So yeah, heck, that would be cool. Definitely do more hobby stuff. But yeah, that resin pump for 180, what was that? $138 for the resin pump here. That is just way too expensive for that. But going back, if we check out this UFM design page, where we saw the resin pump for $138, which is, I would never buy that. Yeah, if we look at some of their other stuff, they have like furniture, and they kind of get into this furniture thing. So you got a 3D printer enclosure, you got like a desk and a cabinet, and then like printer station, curing station, stuff like that. And some of this stuff is like silicone mat $20, workstation back wall $40. Okay, that's IKEA. Print station, workstation $80, storage $388 for a cabinet. $380 for a cabinet. Holy crow! That is equipment. Print station enclosure. Let's see how that is. So you got the Photon 3 Max. That's a large scale one, and full seal gaskets, anti UV panels. That looks really cool. It looks really good. Hey, we got George. George popped in. Howdy, George. How you doing today? Good to see you. So we talk about this, and then of course they got an air intake koozie thing. They got climate control stuff and filters and all that stuff. How much Elegoo's Saturn would fit in there? They got a storage unit. But if we look at this, how much is that printer enclosure? Yeah, it looks epic. Hack is like, yeah, that's a good looking, I like that. I like it's crisp, it's clean, it looks nice. Replacement BOC filters, silicone mat, free upgrade to UV, anti-UV panels, $400. I don't think it's that nice. I don't know. mean, if you had the budget for that, for me personally, I mean, it looks really cool. It looks really good. The industrial, the clean, the sleekness of this. I mean, that is a sweet looking, what is that? 3D print station enclosure. I mean, that is sexy. That is one sexy enclosure. That's for sure. 71 centimeters by 78. So, I mean, that is nice. I'm not going to lie. That, but at $400, it's not that sexy. Yeah, it's not that sexy. Climate control, so it's got a little heat, it's got a little fan action in there. Hack says $400. We all put in 100 and we get you there. Yeah, but it's still too expensive. That's just temperature control. Yeah, Zombie pops in and says yeah. So it's got a fan, it's got a little heater in there. But that enclosure looks like it would be like in a spare room. So really the printing temperature that you have for resin, unless you have zero heat in your house or zero air conditioning in your house, really that climate control is just kind of like, it's a little bonus. Like, but do you really need it? Yeah, I don't know. But Hack says, got to make sacrifices to the hobby gods for an enclosure. And that is a sexy enclosure. But for $400, I don't think it's that sexy. It's just not that much. George says, I have avoided resin printers because I don't have space for it and it's not as versatile in what I can do with it. Yeah, that's true. You're pretty much relegated to miniatures, figures, though you can also do practical prints. There are some tough resins like we talked about before you got in here. But yeah, it is kind of limited. Yeah, you can definitely do more stuff with a 3D printer than you can a resin printer, in my opinion. So yeah, I agree with you. Hack says, in Seoul, no need for that. It's too hot. Yeah, it's definitely not needed. I mean, I bought a little heater for my Saturn III Ultra. In all honesty, I didn't need it. And I rarely turn it on because the temperature in the house is enough to where it's good. And I don't need to worry about it. So, would that stop the fumes too? No, it looks like when we look at that, it ended up like it showed the ventilation system. Oh, so you can get the storage combo for $740. Holy crow. I mean, that's sexy. That's a nice looking thing, but basically you're looking at some metal tubing, frame, boom, cross members or whatever. Some little panels, acrylic panels or whatever. I don't see that as, but the enclosure, where was that piece at? We just saw that. But basically it has climate control, so it's got like a little heater in there and it's got an air blower, so it's got an intake, so the fumes for the resin that is off-put by the resin, you can evac that out the back. There's a connector on there. I'm surprised they didn't show the back of it to show the inlet and the outlet. You hook that up and then you can evacuate the VOCs and the resin smells outside. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, it doesn't stop the fumes. You just got to transfer the fumes outside. But you'll still get some resin smell, guaranteed, because you're still going to fill your resin vat. You're going to get some resin smell with that. You're going to take the resin prints off and out of the enclosure, and you have to take them off of the build plate. So you're going to get resin. You're going to wear gloves. You probably want to wear a mask or respirator if you're really want to be safe. And then you have to clean and wash them. So you're still going to have resin smell. You're going to wash them with IPA most likely. So you're going to have that smell on top of it. It's a pretty smelly thing to do resin printing. So yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. Um, Zombie says, on the other hand, resin's great for smaller details, prints, and to go on your bigger prints. It's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. So if you do some cosplay stuff and you do some armor pieces or whatever it is, and then you have small detail stuff, there's a number of creators and makers that end up doing stuff on their resin printing because they can get such high details. So absolutely right. Hack says, I know you're into 3D printing, but may I ask if you ever tried woodworking? No, I never. The only woodworking that I got into was rehabbing houses. I never did whittling. I never did any type of, I built some cabinets, did framing, put in windows, you know, tore down walls, put in walls in houses and stuff like that. So that's the extent of my woodworking. Ripping wood and putting up, walls and 2x4s and multi-board, all that stuff. But as far as hobby stuff, I've never really done that. What's the resin smell like? Similar to paint? Yeah, kind of a painty smell. It's got its own different little thing, and some resins are more pungent than others. So I definitely use the fan and evacuate it in a ventilation system out the window, which is okay. You can do that. Some people have, like Verithus ended up. He did an vent evacuation system. I've got an AC Infinity inline fan that I'm going to install one of these days. Because I'm also looking at getting a laser engraver, so I need to evacuate that out. But yeah, it's kind of a smell. It's kind of the smell, and the wife doesn't like the smell, so I got to make sure that I evacuate that out. And processing it, I usually have a fan on, the windows open, just to get that smell out of the room. So it doesn't bother me, but my nose has been broken a few times, so it doesn't bother me as much. But for other people, it kind of depends. And some people have a reaction to it as well. So yeah, you definitely use a respirator or mask and gloves and all that stuff. Like George says, resin always sets off migraines. Wow, ooh, that sucks. What did it for me? What was really bad for me was fiberglass. Fiberglass manufacturing. So when I worked in prisons, it ended up that let me open this door a little bit because it's getting a little warmish. So my wife is up. So anyway, yeah, when I worked in prisons, they had a fiberglass manufacturing facility. So they would make enclosures, they would make water slides, they would make giant fish tanks for aquaponic farms and so on and so forth. A lot of high-end industrial fiberglass works. And I would have to go work down there on cameras and systems and all kinds of, some of their equipment, the electrical components. Worked on fire systems, suppression systems, again, electronics, cameras, and all that. When I go down there, man, that would give me headaches. But usually I would work down there in the morning, and then, maybe 2-3 hours, and I'd be like, I'm starting to feel it, even though I'm wearing a respirator. But by the end of the day, if I left, I would be all right. So George says, enamel paints hit my lungs and head. Yeah. Luckily, I haven't done a lot with enamel paints. I'm just kind of doing the acrylic paints, and that's good. They're kind of like, I guess it's like a plant-based, but with the little painting stuff that I do, I don't have any problems with that. The resin, it's smelly, but it doesn't give me headaches. But fiberglass, resin, and all that stuff, oh yeah, that'll make me think twice. So. But then I'm also limited by what I can do in our apartment. So, yeah, I'm not going to be doing any fiberglass building of boats or woodworking. But though I could do woodworking, because even though I'm in Korea, I live next to a military base that I have access to because I'm retired, but they have an arts and crafts center So they have resin, they do painting, they have all kinds of stuff, but they also have an excellent workshop, wood workshop, table saws, routers, planers, the whole 9 yards. They have everything, and people build furniture there. You just got to take some safety classes and pay like $20 and get certified so that you don't kill yourself, and if you do, it's on you. But they've got a lot of tools. That is definitely something I could do, as if I needed another hobby. Oh no, zombie hunter. He asked a question, but Hack says solving can get in your head. Never sniff the gas fumes, said my native friend. That's true. Don't sniff the fumes. No huffing. Huffing is not allowed. Zombie says, how's the 6-foot Hulk going? It is not. Because I've been getting sidetracked. I did the Doom Eternal Slayer helmet, which I have up there, which I'm still woefully not processing. And then I got into the Ripper helmets, so you can see that one there. And then this one is painted up. So I kind of get distracted with other things. But eventually, that's on my bucket list, is to do like a 5 or a 6-foot Hulk. So there's that. One of the worst smells on earth is a paper mill. Really? A paper mill? Huh. I thought the 6-foot Hulk was in front of the camera. Well, it's that Hulk right there that is going to be the 5 or 6-foot Hulk. The problem is printing it out. You can use like Luban to cut and piece that all out so it fits within the build area of the printer that you have. But this thing is the Hulk that I want to print out. And of course this needs painted as well. But this is going to be like over 1,000 hours of printing. Just printing alone. So yeah, eventually I'll get it done. It's probably going to be about 5 feet tall. But that's the bucket list. So, and really I'm kind of waiting to get this other stuff out of the way, because if I start doing that, that will tie up the only 3D printer that I have, which begs the question, should I get another 3D printer? So, Zombie says, I think Hack was calling you the Hulk. Yeah. Duh. Zombie Hunter says, we all have 100 jobs on the go at the same time. I know. And I get sidetracked so easily. Kind of like with the Ripper Mask stuff. And that was just so cool because it was free. And then it was like, hey, painting, I think I can do that, because that's kind of like painting miniatures and the techniques that I learned. And so that mask is coming out really well. And then, of course, I got sidetracked again because this one from Galactic Armory, I saw an email and I belong to their Patreon and they released this. So this is another one. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, it just squirrel moments I get caught up in. So, but honestly, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe getting another printer. So if I get another printer, then I'll definitely start working on the Hulk, on the 5 or 6-foot Hulk. I'm 6'2", but imagine the Hulk back there being 5 foot tall, and the base would be huge. It would have to go in a corner of the room. And that's the other thing is, I don't know if I have the room for that. I mean, I could definitely do it. But I don't know. Then comes in the problem of the logistics of painting something that big. And that is huge, and you're talking about, painting the Hulk, airbrushing it, I'm going to do rattle cans, and now I'm going to have to get a bigger, spray gun. And so the logistics of that and painting, the printing out is the easy part. Putting together is the easy part, but then filling and sanding and doing all that, that would be a little rough. But eventually I'm going to do it. It is on the bucket list. Zombie Hunter says, that looks cool. Are you going to put a visor on that mask? I think what I'm going to end up doing on this one is I've got some window screen repair that's black. So it's like a black window screen. And so we'll put that on here. And then I think we'll do the same thing with this as well on the screen here. So that way you can look out, but you can't really see in. And I'd be able to put those little eyes on there with, some glowing fluorescent paint and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep everybody updated on that. Zombie says, I'm nearly finished my life-size hand in carbonite. I have no idea where I'm going to put it. Dude, you need to send me pictures. That life-size in carbonite, whoa. You definitely got to send me pictures. So yeah, hit up my email and send me pictures, and I'll show them on a future video. I would, and if you don't mind. If you do mind, just let me know and just show me the pictures, because I'd still like to check that out. That would be crazy. Wow. Now, Ferdinand comes in and says, greetings, Steve. I agree with your subscriber on the paper mill. Lived at Fort Mitchell, Alabama, down the street from a mill. Worst smell ever. Really? Wow. I've never been by a paper mill, so I have no idea. I've been by lumber mills, the worst being the fiberglass plant, facility. That was probably the worst for me, but at least, that would go away by the end of the day. But man, I'll take your guys' word for it. That paper, if you say it stinks, I'll believe you. You guys are, let's see. So Zombie Hunter says, yeah, he's going to send me some pictures, and I would love to. And if you got pictures of some of your other life-size stuff, I'd like to see that as well. I think that'd be cool. And I probably have questions for you as well. Like, how do you slice it up? Do you use Luban, or do you just slice it on your own and do the connectors in the slicing program? Or, I'd be interested in see, how you do that workflow process. So when you send me an email, yeah, it's oh no. Zombie says, I tried sending you pics the other day, but couldn't work out how to attach the pics. I'm hopeless on my laptop. Oh no. Oh no. I have to ask my son. There you go. That's why you have children. You can ask him those things. So, but usually an email, you can add, like, it'll say like add an attachment or something that looks like a paper clip or even a plus sign, and you can see add document or pictures or something like that. But yeah, ask your son to figure it out, and they'll set you straight, hopefully. Zombie says, most of the files, it's all sliced. Oh, okay, cool. That makes it easy. So you just put it on your printer, print, put it together, glue it. It's awesome. That'd be cool. Life-size hand in carbonite. Wow. But yeah, that's why I'd like to do the bucket list of, like, the 5 foot. I think doing the Hulk in 5 foot would be good, because any bigger, I don't know where I'd be able to put it. Like, I could do the Hulk at 5 feet, and I think the base, I measured it out, I could put it in the corner of the room, and it would stay there forever. But it's one of those. It's one of those bucket list things. So, but then again, and I don't have room in here. That's for sure. Well, I could put it right back there. But I don't know. But I think in the other room, I would be able to put it in the corner. But then again, I'm thinking about getting another island that we have in there. So let me see. Do I got a picture of that? Of the room back there? I don't think I do. but I want to get another island because my K2 Plus is sitting on top of a little kitchen island that I got, and it works out really well. So I'm thinking about getting another one and get another printer and so on and so forth. So Zombie says all measurements of Han in carbonite box. I just Googled to find them. Oh, okay, cool. Wow. So how long did it take you to print that out? That's the I mean, life size. You're talking what, 5, 6 feet tall, and it's probably what, like that deep. Something like that, whatever it is. How many hours did that take to print? Wow, that would be pretty wild. Let me take a picture of the of my room. I'll be right back. Yeah, I got a picture here, and what I'll end up doing is, and you'll kind of see the limits that I have for the room. Zombie says, yeah, it's only his body. I printed out the box is made out of wood. Oh, okay, cool. Let me send this and kind of show you what I'm working with. Excuse me. Ding. Because this will put things into perspective and why I'm kind of like, do I really want to do this or not? For the Hulk, I definitely want to do it. But that's the room that I end up having. So you can see where the K2 Plus and the laptop is. I've got that little cabinet that stuff is sitting on. I'm thinking about getting another one of those and putting one on the right of that cabinet. So that way, if I get two printers, I'll have room to do that. But the Hulk, I thought about doing the Hulk and putting him in the corner, and then of course moving the 3D printer and that island, more to the right, so the Hulk would fit in that corner. But if I get another one of those and get another printer, that would give me some more workspace, but I would run out of room for the Hulk. So I don't know, I might have to rearrange, because the Hulk would definitely have to go in a corner. I mean, I guess I could put him right in the middle of the window there, but that would just look odd. It seems with the Hulk and the base and how that looks, it would definitely have to sit in the corner. So, and yeah, that cabinet is pretty good. Actually, it's from China. The way he says it is just hilarious. Let me blow this up a little bit. So yeah, that is really nice because that's all wood. I mean, that's not like particle board. It's not like press board with crappy Formica on top of it. All of that is wood. So I was pretty impressed. And the price was pretty good too. It was like $250, I think it was, somewhere around there for that. And it is super solid. And the wood on top is, it's like an inch thick or so. It is really good quality, really solid, which I really like. So I'm looking at getting another one of those. And if I get another printer, I'll definitely get another one of those. But then if I do that, like I said, I'm going to run out of real estate in the hobby room. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I still want to print out the Hulk. Even Zombie says, can you take the shelves out? No. Well, yeah, I could. And I could take out the shelves, but I don't know. I think I like the shelves the way they are, so yeah, I could do that and put some swinging doors on it. but it's a kitchen island type of thing. So on the side or on the back side of it, you've got an empty space there to where you kind of like sit on a bench or sit on a stool, and you have kind of like a little island sitting, eating whatever. Let me go take a quick pic and I'll show you what I mean. So running back and forth. But it's definitely kind of like a kitchen island with a little area where you can. So there you see, there's the back end of it. So it's kind of open in the back, so you have like room if you're sitting on a stool, and then you have room for your legs to go underneath, and it's a little bit higher than kind of like a standard cabinet, which would be like 32 inches high. It's taller, so I like that, and that's another reason why I ended up getting it. But yeah, I guess you could end up taking the shelves out of there. I could do that, but I like having the shelves in there personally. Because if you can see if a printer can fit in it. Zombie's got it going on. So, here's the question. Let's take a look. We'll kind of do a little bit of adjusting here. And to see, let's blow this up big time. I think I could take out the shelves, but would that affect the drawers? I'm not sure. Would it? Yeah, I might. I don't know. Now you got me wondering. Because then, if I take out the shelves, I could take out the drawers. Could I just end up putting another K2 Plus under there without the CFS on top? Let me be right back. You might be onto something. Zombie's onto something. He says, now he's got me thinking. Yes, you do. The drawers are connected on there by the side pieces. And you have the centerpiece support, and then you have the shelves. Those are actually interlocking like that. And then they're screwed on the ends and on the top and from the bottom to secure those, and then the drawers are attached to the center support and on the side with those little rail things that they've got. So if I took out the shelves and the drawers, I could put a K2 Plus underneath. It would be a little bit wider, but as far as just the printer itself, I could definitely put that in there and do that. And then I could put my Hulk in the corner. Good idea. Zombie Hunter. That's why I hang around you all. You've got such good ideas. So, anyway, we're done with our latte, and that's what we got going on. So, and then Zombie says you can always put something on the back for support. Yeah, because that back end is open. So when the shelves, it just kind of drops off into nothingness and whatever. So I could actually, yeah, I could extend the floor or the base of that and to go all the way to the back and screw it in, drill some holes, put some screws, wood screws, and it'd be good to go. So it would be pretty stable. That would work really, really well. So, yeah, entirely doable. I could have to. And so, I heard rumors that Creality is going to be coming out with something this next year. I don't know if that was actually true. Somebody said, yeah, Creality is rumor of new Creality machine, new Creality 3D printer 2026. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Somebody mentioned it, but I couldn't find any information of whether that was true or not, and to whether maybe they'll do a multi-head system like some of the other companies that are coming out. But yeah, but even the maybe the Bamboo H2S, because that seems to be a really nice machine as well. A little bit, still a little bit of expense. But if Creality does come out with new machines, like their older machines go down in price, I might get another K2 Plus. So Bamboo H2S, which that is, how much is that going for these days? Let's take a look at that. So buy now, buy now. So $1,500. Interesting. And what about Reality K2 Plus? What does that come out to? 350 by 350 cubed. K2 Plus. Come on. Flagship series. Come on. Seriously. K2 Plus is $1,000. So $1,500 or $1,000, I can get. That's gone down in price. It used to be $1,300. Now it's like $1,000, $1,100. So hopefully Creality will come out with a new machine. Zombie Hunter says Bamboo P1P dropped in price. George says, might not be big, but I love my Cobra S1. Cool, that's good. So I don't know. We'll see. The thing is, I could definitely get another K2 Plus, and that would fit on there if I took out the shelves and the drawer. And I'd have to take out both drawers, but that's entirely doable. And then I would still have a little bit of, because I think it goes past that center point by a couple of inches, so I could still even, put in some shelves or some storage on that other side. Maybe even some drawers. I could make some drawers. I could do that as well. So, yeah, interesting. Good thinking. Good thinking, Zombie. I appreciate that. Maximize the storage space. So, good stuff. Anyway, or the Cobra K2, the Cobra S1, or P1P, or some of the older systems that have like a 256 cube or 270 cube build area. You might even be able to put two of those under there. I don't know, to start looking at the footprints of some of those machines, and then I don't know. We'll see. Interesting stuff. So anyway, that's what we got going on. Thought I would talk about that. Hack says my man is going to have a little 3D printer farm in a year from now in my apartment. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I can kind of see getting another machine. I can kind of see that, especially if I do some armor, if I do the Hulk, the 5-foot Hulk project, I could definitely see getting another machine. And then I don't know, if maybe do a side gig or two for some people that might encourage me to do that. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see. We'll see. Do a little print service here in Korea with some of the military folks and see what happens with that. Well, anyway, yeah, I don't know how dedicated of a print farm it would be, but yeah. And then there's always the laser engraver that I want to get, and just too many things I want to get. So maybe I need to buy a house instead of an apartment. But right now, we're planning on buying another apartment to rent it out, and then that will fuel some of the hobby stuff that I do. And since I'm a high maintenance type of guy, it'll keep me in the ways in which I am accustomed to. So help fund the 3D addiction. So we'll see how that. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and cut this because it's about 10:37 a.m. right now, and I'm starving. My hunger pains are starting to get hangry. So Zombie Hunter says, all my printers were paid for by selling stuff to others. Yeah, that is awesome. I ended up, my little 5-watt laser engraver that I got, which actually the company sent it to me. It was like the cheapest laser engraver that you could probably find on Amazon, little 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter engraving area. I got that for free to do a review. It was okay. It's super cheap entry level machine, but it allowed me to do to print on slate coasters, and I was able to make like $400 or $500 off of one order. So boom, there's that. And then I used that money to help get, the 3D printer and stuff. And matter of fact, I've got about $145 squirreled away. Matter of fact, I got it right here. Got my little money that I've saved. So I got like $145 there. It's not much. And then I just found out that through the monetization of YouTube, I think I'm getting like another $100 or so. So throw that into the kitty, and that will go towards buying another printer as well, or other stuff. So I don't want to buy filament with that money because I'd like to get, because let's say if I make 75 or $100 a month off of YouTube, I'll use the money to buy the machines, and then eventually once I get the machines and everything paid off, and then the money from YouTube, depending on how long that lasts. I'm not counting on YouTube, that's for sure. But it would be nice to do some side gigs, and it's great to be able to do exactly that. Be able to make stuff for people, make a little bit of money, not a killing, but kind of chip away at the price of everything, and eventually break even, or start making a profit on this stuff. So that would be cool. Hack says, Gimbap time? No, I think we're going to go to La Paine, which is a breakfast cafe that is right across the street, and I'm going to do my obligatory scrambled eggs, French toast, latte, and little salad action there. So we'll save gimbap for a little bit later. That'll be during Chuseok, which is the Korean Thanksgiving. It starts tomorrow. So we're going to have a big old huge meal with family on one of those days. Zombie says, I'm printing a couple of pit droids for friends, and that money's going towards the H2S. Awesome. I really need to step up my game and kind of do stuff like that. And try to get some sales. And hopefully with some of this mask stuff that I've done and helmets, maybe I'll be able to do that and start doing like a print service thing like you're talking about. So, as if I didn't have enough to do already. But, bringing in a few extra nickels and dimes would be good. And again, throwing that towards the cause. And that would, even if I just break even, or pay 50% of the cost of the stuff that I buy, that's awesome to me. So, but we'll see what happens. Definitely. Hack says that my breakfast is the breakfast of champions. Yes, they do really, really well on that. Their French toast is really good. And the eggs aren't bad either. So we're going to go do that. And it's getting close. And like I said, it's almost 11 o'clock and I'm starving, guys. So with that, let's just go ahead and end this because I'm getting hangry and you're getting to the point where you get so hungry that you're starting to feel sick. That's where I'm at right now. Zombie says, I'll just post my stuff on Facebook groups and people reach out to me to make them stuff. Cool. Hey, send me an email with your Facebook page. Because I might have you friended. I'm not sure. Maybe I did in the past. I'm not sure. But since I'm using a page off of Facebook, The Varied Life, there's kind of a story behind that. But yeah, I would like to keep up and see the stuff that you do. I mean, especially that life size stuff is pretty awesome. So yeah, it just kind of encourages me to do more stuff. So, as if I don't have enough time in the day already. But yeah, definitely send me that. I would definitely like to keep abreast of all the stuff that you do. So anyway, everybody else, thanks for watching. Check it out. Again, the resin print tool, $138. Yeah, that's way too much. Way too expensive. And then we went from that into 3D printing, and then we got models and Hulk and big butt jokes and all that kind of stuff, suck and blow, and that was kind of funny. And then we ended up with where we are now, hungry and needing food. So, and after that, probably a nap. So we'll leave that out. Anyway, with the obligatory outro, there is the email address. So yeah, if anybody wants to send me an email of the stuff that they've done, life-size prints, small prints, whatever it is, painting, shoot me an email. I'd like to see some of that stuff. Coffee, whatever. If you want to do that, the best thing you could do is like the video. That would be the best help that you could do. So with that, Zombie Hunter, Hack, Nefertum, Ferrithus is already gone, and so we'll see everybody and anybody else who's watching. Hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate that. Zombie Hunter, yes, we will see you and everyone else see in the chat. We'll see you all later. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. All right, peace. We are out of here.